used to think that retiring in Zimbabwe or Africa is about building a retirement home, and that is the main goal. But I quickly realized that there is more to that. If you don't have specific systems in place, that idea of retirement can turn into a disaster. So what makes a retirement successful? That's the question I was asking myself over and over again. Yes, I started off at a farm and wanted to live off-grid on a farm. But that was more of something that I wanted to do as a passion, something that I wanted to do, as a hobby. So I was thinking, yesterday I got a call from the builders because, I'm building at the farm. So I got a call from the builders saying, you know what, we need more bricks, about 10,000 bricks. And within about 2 weeks, the house is going to be complete. And that just gave me goosebumps because I thought to myself, well, in a couple of weeks, the house is going to be complete. Wow. And this hasn't even taken months. I mean, this was built really fast because everything was on the ground. All the supplies they needed, all the materials were there on time. But I realized that building a house is actually the easy part. But having systems in place that makes your living at the farm easy is the hardest bit. So the first thing that I thought about was, okay, let's say today, the house is complete and today I decide to retire. What is my source of income going to be? Do I want to rely on my kids to send me money, or do I really need to have something that generates money while I'm at the farm? And this got me thinking. And straight away, I realized that those systems that need to be in place actually cost a lot of money. So let's talk about the first thing. Now, I tried to have a borehole at the farm. I mean, that was not successful. But the idea with the borehole was to work on growing plants at the farm. But now the question is, what do I need to have in place for income generating purposes while I'm on the ground? So the borehole is one of them. At the moment, I've got 2 wells which have a lot of water, but I know that the levels or the water table is going to go low as we approach the autumn months. I know that for a fact because the water table, goes down. And also, if you don't have a good rainy season, I mean, last year or a few months ago, we had a very, very good rainy season. So that is a huge advantage. That's why there's a lot of water. But prior to that, there wasn't really good water. So the water tables were really, really low, which means if you're trying to grow vegetables or anything that requires a lot of water, that wouldn't work. So back to the issue of the borehole. So we've had a few places surveyed, so we're still waiting to see. As soon as I get some money, I'm going to get that sorted. But that already needs a budget of between 4,000 and 5,000 total. Because just the drilling alone, we let's assume that you're going to go more than 60 meters. That in itself is a cost, and then you want the piping, and then you want the solar, and then you want pumps and everything that's needed. So let's say that's about 5,000. So you've got your house. So the water, 5,000. Then you also have to think about other sources of income. So if you're fortunate enough, then you can have rental properties, you can have pension income, you can have an online business, consulting, and so on. I want to be practical here because it may be that when I retire, I don't really want to focus on an online business because it is quite taxing. It is quite stressful. You have to keep at it. And of course, with AI, things change a lot. So next thing I thought about was, okay, the water is there. That's cool. What's next? Well, since I'm at the farm, I don't have electricity there. I'm going to need some sort of power. And to have a very good source of power, there needs to be a very good solar system, and also the inverters need to be solid and they need to run the whole farm. Now that alone is another 5,000. So do you see where I'm going with this now? This is before you even start talking about earning money while you're in retirement. We're talking about setting up systems that make it comfortable for you to live. So the solar system, we're talking about the batteries. Batteries are very expensive. I think a 48-volt battery is going to be about $1,000 US. You're probably going to need about 3 or 4 of them, depending on how much power you're using, especially at night. So 3-4 batteries, that's already 4,000. Then you're going to need the inverter, you're going to need the solar panels, the cabling and so on. So that's another 5,000. So now we're at 10,000. So what other system do you need to have in place? Well, and this is the most important one, the food is also part of the system. So the idea here is, are you going to be spending a lot of money at the supermarket? Well, in my case, I decided that I had to have about 80%, or rather 90% of my food being produced at the farm. So what do I mean by this? Well, chickens, eggs, my vegetables, fruit trees, all that needs to be at the farm. So once that's in place, I know my food is sorted. When I go to the supermarket, I'm basically buying things that I cannot make at the farm or produce at the farm. So things like cooking oil, maybe cheese, but again, cheese can be made at home. That'll be a very cool project. But anyway, cooking oil, soap, those type of things, things that I can't make at home. Those are the sort of things that I'll be going to the supermarket for. Okay, so the idea here is to reduce the dependence on supermarkets. So these gardens are going to have pretty much everything I need, from carrots, cucumbers. I may even have a little greenhouse to make sure that I have all my vegetables and everything. So that alone, it's not very expensive, to be honest. So I'll put that maybe at 1.5, 2,000. So now we're at 12. The next thing you're going to need, or rather in my case, I'm going to need, and this has been one of the stumbling blocks and one of the reasons why I haven't gone to Zimbabwe earlier than I wanted. And I'm just being honest with you. My Land Rover Discovery, when I shipped it to Zimbabwe, I did not put all the parts or the latest parts that I needed. So what happened was, as I was driving the car and using the car, a lot of things started breaking down to a point where it's rendered useless right now. So the idea now was for me to get a car that I can use on the ground there in Zimbabwe. So what's holding me back, or rather what I need as part of my system, is a car, a reliable car. And being on the ground in Zimbabwe, the cars that are reliable, especially if you're going to be someone who's going to be at the farm or spending a lot of time at the farm, is going to be one of those pickup trucks, whether it's a Nissan or whether it's a Toyota, you name it, but it's going to be a car which fits what I'm trying to do. So that also becomes part of the system that's needed in place. So in terms of my Land Rover Discovery 3, as we speak, I'm buying all the parts that I need to make this car pretty much close to 100%. So I'm buying the new air suspension, all 4 of them. I'm also buying all the brakes, the brake pads, the discs, all brand new. I'm also buying the service kit, prop shaft, and also the little cosmetics that I may need. Now, once the car is pretty much back to functioning properly, and I'm going to document this so that when I decide to sell it, at least the person that's buying it can see that all the parts have been bought from England and they're all fitted properly and the car is functioning as it's supposed to, including the diagnostics thingy for Discoveries. I'll also include that in the price. Now, if the car doesn't fetch a good price, the idea is to pretty much get it all painted, make sure that it's looking proper, really, really nice, to a point where I should be having second thoughts on selling it. Really, that's the idea. But the car has to be in tip-top condition. So the reason why I'll be selling it is because it's not practical for what I need to do at the farm. So that's the reason why I'll be selling. Hopefully, if I sell it for a good price, bearing in mind that the car is in very, very good condition. And by the way, the car is manual, which also is a huge advantage when it comes to the Discoveries. The engine lasts longer. Or at least that's what I've been told by the mechanics. So sell that car and then swap it for a Toyota Hilux, twin cab, or any of those cars that are more practical for me at the farm. That's the idea. Or if I can save enough money here to buy a car, I'm going to need a car on the ground. That's another thing that you need as part of a system for retirement. The car has to be there. Think about it. You're going to need to take things to the market. You're going to need to travel with your family. You're also going to need to, in cases of emergency, right? You're going to need that in place. So that needs to be part of the system. Next, in part of the lists of the systems that you need to have in place is security. So we're talking CCTVs. You got to have dogs. You got to have nice fence, and just the fencing alone on 4.5 hectares is going to cost me a lot of money. I'm talking about close to, I think last time I got a quote, in fact, no, I can't remember actually how much it was, but it was quite a lot, right? So security is a very important thing. So in my case, I know it's going to cost me a lot of money. I'm going to try and speak to local companies so we can have some sort of a marketing deal for maybe that could help. But again, security is going to be a very, very, very important part of the system. Okay, so dogs, again, you don't just have, those dogs, you have, which pretty much they just bark and run away. You want to have proper dogs like, what are these called? The police dogs. What are they called again? I'm forgetting the name. Anyway, if the name comes, I will mention them. So you want to have very good dogs, very good security system, cameras, and all of that. That's going to cost you a couple of thousands. So, okay, I mentioned the transport system. As part of the system, you're also going to need to make sure that your healthcare situation is in place. The healthcare is also very, very important. So you got to have one of the top, highest levels of medical aid in Zimbabwe. So you don't have shortfalls when you go to the hospital. Again, that's something that needs to be in place. So as you can see, when you put all these things together, right, it is a lot and it's going to cost money. So when I sat down and I started looking at, okay, I've got a house. Well, I've ticked the box. Well, no. Far from it. The house is the easier part. As you can see, the most important part is is all these systems that need to be in place before you can say, you know what, I'm comfortable. So what does this say? I mean, I'm not saying this to put pressure on anyone or to make you feel like, oh my goodness, am I even ever going to retire? That's not the idea. The idea with what I'm discussing about here is to have an open mind and to actually look at the reality of what needs to be in place in order to have a successful retirement. As for me, I don't want to put pressure on my children to ask them to pay for things while I'm in retirement, because I think this is their opportunity for them to start their own life. In fact, if I was in a position where I have a lot of money saved up or whatever, I would be giving my children houses as presents, so they can get a very good start in life, because that is very, very important. I'm trying to move away from that idea that because I've got the kids, they have to look after me in retirement straight away. No, I'd rather, because, things have changed now, economically, culturally, and so on. I would see my children struggling a lot if they didn't have that boost to help them start their new life, right? Because things have gone a lot expensive and so on. So I wouldn't want to use that as my retirement plan. So if I'm going to do everything myself, that means I have to have all these things in place. So if you're someone that's thinking of retiring, these are the sort of things that needs to be in place, or things that you need to think about before you can commit to say, you know what, I want to start retiring. It's not just the house and then whatever is going to make you the money. So let's touch a bit on the sources of income. So some of the sources of income can be, things that are really basic. Now, if you have the list of all these things that I spoke about, you'll find that running a very tiny project can make you a decent money to live on. So if you're getting, let's say, $50, $80 a day with your little project, or even $50 a day, that's, decent money on a daily basis. That's decent money, because remember, you have all these things that we mentioned earlier on. You've got security, you've got a car, you've got your healthcare all sorted. Okay, I mentioned security. What else did I mention that was very important? Anyway, I'm forgetting the list. But if all these things are in place, then you'll find that you're not stressing a lot when it comes to money. So what sort of projects can you have in retirement? Well, depending, because everyone is not going to be the same. People are going to have different interests, different hobbies, different expertise. So in my case, I'm actually thinking of taking on welding as a hobby. So as you can imagine, if I were to start making very nice gates, right, really nice well-designed gates, and sell those at my own pace, custom-made gates, like the ones, I know this is a bit of a stretch, I'm talking design-wise, like the Buckingham Palace gates and fences. Imagine if I could create something like that, take my time and really, make that craft, really spend a lot of time on that craft to make those type of gates. I'll be making very, very unique gates. That's going to be my my pastime. Another source of income would be the farming bit. I can grow vegetables, or if I can go into chickens, or even goats, that in itself is going to be another source of income. But in order for these sources of income to run, have to have the systems in place, because the systems are going to determine whether it's going to make things easier for you or not. I'll give you a very good example. Let's say I want to go into chickens, broiler chickens, and I don't have a strong enough solar system. How is my refrigeration going to, how am I going to do my refrigeration at the farm if I don't have a strong solar system? You see what I mean? So the system needs to be there in place, and then whatever you're going to add as a source of income is going to be much, much easier. So welding is going to be one of those things I do in my spare time. You know, no pressure, no rush. I may even start making gym equipment. You know, I can even build, you know, fences, palisade. You know, there's so many things I can build with my welding skills. All I need to do is to buy a fantastic welding machine, and that will be a huge investment for me. All the wires, all the wiring, what you call them, the welding rods and everything. I will just buy everything from here, ship it over there to Zim, and I have my applies. So that's how I am thinking about how I'm going to be utilizing my time during retirement. So I thought I would share this with you because the idea of just thinking of building a house is not enough. Now, the other part as well is the legacy system. The legacy system is also very powerful because you want to make sure you have a trust in place, right? A succession plan. You want to have family discussions. Now, I want to tell you something really interesting about our culture. Here I am. I've got a farm. I've got a house. Let's say I've got cars. When I pass on, when I die, usually, culturally, my brothers would come and take over and start sharing my assets. Generally speaking, or at least that's, I mean, I may be wrong, but that's what I've seen. For the little part that I was in Zimbabwe, when someone dies, my brothers would come. They start distributing things. Even my clothes will be distributed and so on. And in most cases, nothing will be left for my children. That to me is a problem. That to me is a problem because if you're taking it away from my children, what are they going to do? Where are they going to start? So in order for me to fix that issue was to create to create a trust. So everything is protected in the trust. So nothing can be sold. The assets cannot be sold. So everything is going to be solid and well protected. So you want to make sure that this legal system or legacy system is in place, because it's one of those things that can destroy everything that you've put together. It's very, very important. And you also want to make sure you have family discussions around this, because some people can try to knock you out thinking that when you're gone, they're going to come and take over. I mean, people are just crazy like that. Okay. We just have to accept that that's a possibility. So having these things in place is, very, very important. So the other thing that I also want to talk about is, once everything is in place, if you are in the diaspora, especially let's say the UK, you have to have enough funds for you to, let's say you're on indefinite leave to remain, you need to have enough funds for you to keep your indefinite leave, active. And perhaps let's say you're a British citizen, you want to make sure that, you're traveling. If you've left your house here or things here, you want to go back and check on things. So you got to have these sources of income in place in order for you to be able to do that. But of course, some may have a very good pension and so on. But this is more like a reality check for me. But as you're watching this video, you can customize this to, your own situation and how you would, approach things. This is not a do this, follow me type of video. No, it's just one of those videos which when you look at it, you're saying, okay, thought a house was a massive thing in retirement. No, that I would say is probably a quarter of where you need to be really in order for you to have a successful retirement situation. So anyway, guys, I would like to hear your thoughts. Some of you perhaps maybe are already retired. What are your plans? What's your situation like? I'd like to share your comments in the video description below. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. In the next video, I'll be sharing the developments at the farm. Things are looking great, and the house is, in fact, you know what? Let me not talk about the house. I'll do a video and show you so you can see the progress that is happening at the farm. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.